I don't want to hit somebody, right? Like, I don't want that on my conscience either, right?
For me, it's tough just to get into a rhythm of slowing down and reaccelerating.
It wasn't your fault that you know.
Well, I was driving, so it was my fault. But
Yeah, no, it's a really cool story. Obviously, the Wood brothers pitted Jim Clark's, Lotus, Ford-powered Lotus in the Indy 500.
When I figure it out, I'll tell you.
You know, I know it's generic to say it because it's what people say, but I'm literally just racing the racetrack.
I haven't finished a race at Darlington in about a year either, so I hope to do that.
When it comes to passing, you've got to really kind of wear the guy in front of you down. So there's no other way to do that than just be aggressive.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Obviously, seeing all the photos in the tunnel walking in here was really cool, and obviously they're really close by, so it's a home race for them. So we're going to try to do our best to have a good weekend.
We'll go to Bob next.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. 3 of the former SHR drivers are in the top 16 in points. What do you think it says about you all?
I don't know. That's a hard question to answer, obviously, right? Like, I don't want anybody to feel slighted, but yeah, I mean, we've had good starts to the season. Obviously, last year was a difficult ordeal to manage. And I mean, honestly, I feel like the place was falling down around us, right? Like, we were just trying to do the best we could week in and week out. And for my team, Rodney, the Ford team, I mean, I think they've been the cornerstone of that place for years. So, but yeah, no, without a doubt, I think we've all found good opportunities.
We're going to go to Jordan, Dustin, and then continue on.
Jordan Bianchi, Athletic. I know the two, Phoenix and Martinsville, are dissimilar, but there's still some similarities between the two. What do you take away from Phoenix that you apply here, and do you think what happened at Phoenix, where you had a great run, carries over?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I think that obviously the 21 car's been pretty solid here. Team Penske cars are always good here. I feel like we can carry that momentum. I mean, obviously love coming here. I feel like it should be a good opportunity for us. We can just keep on kind of doing what we've been doing and qualifying well on Saturdays and, stay up front in the race.
We'll go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. The forecast keeps changing, but there is the potential for some rain tomorrow, which could lead to wet weather tires. You finished third at New Hampshire last time on those. What are the challenges with the wet weather tires? And especially, you're not going to get a chance to practice it today. So how do you look at preparing for tomorrow with dry tires and wet weather tires?
Yeah, I don't know. It's, it was interesting last year when we did that at Richmond and New Hampshire. Honestly, all of our cars last year ran really well on the rain tires, which I don't know really why, but our cars was honestly more competitive on those tires than the tires we ran normally compared to the field. So I feel like I have a good feel of what I need to do. Obviously, just going to have to work with Miles and try to prepare for that scenario the best we can if it does come.
We're going to go to Lee next.
Lee Spencer, Series 6 of NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. Can you talk a little bit about your throwback scheme and how it came together for Darlington?
Yeah, no, it's a really cool story. Obviously, the Wood brothers pitted Jim Clark's Lotus, Ford-powered Lotus in the Indy 500. And that's what we're throwing back to because they obviously won the race. But it was really cool to hear the stories from Leonard about how much it meant to him. You think somebody that's been in NASCAR for 75 years and accomplished all these amazing things, for him to say that that moment was one of the most memorable that he's had in his entire life really puts into perspective how big of a moment it was. And there's a lot of ingenuity that the Wood brothers brought to that team to speed up the pit stops. And Lynn and Eddie, they got all that down to like the seconds that they saved. They knew the story way better than me, but all in all, it's just a really cool deal. And it's Ford's first win in the Indy 500. So there's a lot of cool moments. We're excited for it.
We'll go in the middle.
Hey, Josh, Chris Weaver, Fox 8, WGHP, High Point, and Next Star Media Group. Looking forward to Darlington one more time. How do you rate yourself there, and what do you expect out of yourself going into Darlington?
Yeah, I mean, Darlington's always a tough one. you can. If you have a good car, you look like a hero. If you have a bad car, you don't, kind of thing, right? And last year I had 2 really good cars there, run really well. Obviously didn't get the finish we wanted in the Southern 500 with an accident there at the end. But, yeah, I feel good about it. We ran 3rd in the spring. Like I said, if we can translate some of what I learned last year and apply it to a 21 car, hopefully we have a good day.
We'll go to Steve next.
Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Josh, you've had such good Saturdays. You're getting ready to go out and practice. What are you looking for in this practice? What's the game plan? What's the feel? What do you feel you want to accomplish in this practice to continue kind of that trend you've had on good Saturdays?
Yeah, I think not really overthink it. Honestly, the track's going to change a lot between the first group and the second group. The second group's going to be way slower with all the rubber on the track. So just making sure your car runs, turns well, can maneuver through the rubber, stay out of the rubber if you need to. And then, just kind of try to separate that from qualifying and, just go out and hit a good lap, right? So, one thing I love about coming here is I've been here a lot. I've made a lot of laps around this place compared to most places that we go. So, for me today, I think we just go out and do what we've been doing, not overthink it, and we'll be fine.
We're going to come up to the front.
Eric Johnson, WSLS NBC out of Roanoke. When you have success and you get a win early in the season, does that change the goals in terms of what you guys can work on, want to work on, and create new benchmarks that you want to try and achieve?
Yeah. I think that's a fair way to put it. I feel like for me, I've never been a real goal setter. But obviously for the majority of the field, right, aside from a handful of guys that you wanted to call the favorites for the championship, whatever, their goal is to make the playoffs. So to accomplish that, hopefully, and barring anything crazy, is a big deal already. So that's a big positive for us. So I think now it's just about working together and getting better, staying competitive over the course of this summer. Yeah, and then just kind of see what happens when we make it to the playoffs, right? And just see if we, a lot of it comes down to just finishing and execution and being there at the end of the races, right? There's no reason why we can't advance, through a couple rounds of the playoffs.
We're going to go to Jermaine and then John Newby and then up front to Reed Spencer and then over there.
Josh, Jermaine Farrell, WFXR, Fox, CW in Roanoke. Sort of a 2-part question. What was your first impression when you got word, obviously, you're going to become the driver in the Wood Brothers car? Because a lot of iconic drivers have drove that car at 21. And what's the biggest piece of advice you've gotten from them as far as driving the car?
Obviously, meeting with the Wood Brothers and beginning that process was something that was really cool. And they're just a great family. It's a family-run business, family race team. They've been around 75 years. Is really it's just truly amazing. What they've been able to do. So, I think to add my name as a driver for them and now a winner for them has been really special. And I'm just looking forward to keeping it going. Honestly, at this point, I think honestly they don't give me they haven't given me a lot of advice yet. Really, they just want me to go out and do what they know that I can do and why they hired me, and so far we've been doing a pretty decent job with that.
Thanks, sir.
Yep. Go ahead, John.
John Newby, Savage Ventures. So this is the the 3rd race on this tire setup. Bowman Gray earlier this year, Martinsville last fall. Do you kind of have a handle on what to expect with the differences in the track temperatures and just the atmospheric temperature?
So I don't know. I think that's a hard question to answer, I guess. But really, the reality of it is the best way I can say is like Martinsville at nighttime doesn't lay rubber. At daytime, it lays rubber, right? It don't matter what tire you got. We raced late model stocks all over the country, and we ran a Hoosier F45 at every track in the country, and it laid rubber during the day. And then as soon as it started cooling off, it stopped, right? So, I think if we have sun and good weather tomorrow, I think it'll lay a lot of rubber. Which I think will help make the racing better, move the line around a little bit. Fortunately, if it stays kind of overcast, rainy type deal, then I think it'll be more like what we saw in the truck race, which was, you could tell, towards the end that it was just staying, the cars were super edgy, pace was really fast, there's no rubber on the track. So I think that it, really just has much to do with the weather as it does the tire.
We'll go to Reed.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. In 2022, this race was shortened from 500 to 400 laps. The fall race stayed at 500. Do the different lengths dictate any different approach to the race that that affect you at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it really changes too much. Obviously, 400 or 500 laps is still a lot of laps here, right? So definitely, the fall race is a little bit more of a grind from that aspect and a little more traditional length. But I think it's a good balance, and I love running laps around this place. So how many ever they have, I'll hopefully be out there.
And then we'll go to our right.
David Meadows, Star News, Martinsville, Virginia. How does running in the late model here in the past help you get around here better in the Cup Series?
I think the biggest thing is just having the experience, really. We came here and we'd get a test day and then obviously come back for the race. I mean, I've just ran way more laps here compared to a lot of the tracks that I go to. We're in the Cup Series racing guys that have been going to Homestead since, the mid 2005, 2006, however long, right? So it's like when you come here, I feel a little bit more at home just because I've been here a lot. So, a lot of great memories here. Love coming back here. Still that late model race. I keep looking at that picture in the back wall there of Phillip and Lee. Had some, just winning that race was a big moment for me.
We're going to come back up to Dustin for a follow-up.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Didn't get a chance to talk to you after last week's race. You talked me through what happened on pit road. And certainly, maybe it's more anecdotal, but it seems like there's a number of things kind of happening on pit road this year. This is another tight pit road. What are the challenges and what happened last week, and what do you guys have to do moving forward to avoid situations like that again? Yeah, it was just really bad timing, I guess. We watched it all together Monday, me and Joey and, Paul, Miles, all of us, right? And, I mean, it's hard to have a right or wrong move there. Obviously, I knew that I was 3, and then Joey left. Obviously, the first thing to do is, I don't want to run into him, so I tried to move over, hoping we'd have a little bit more space, and we just didn't. So, looking back for me, I just think that I just got to bail, honestly, at that point. I just got to stop and let Joey get out and just live to lose a couple spots and live with the result. I think, these races are long. Our car was never the same. The toe was tweaked on it a little bit. The fender's all broken. It just never really, I thought we went from having a top 10 car to, at best, a 15th, 16th, 17th place car after that. So, you just got to just live to fight another lap, really, and just bail on it. How easy is that to say, though? I mean, that's giving up positions. I mean, again, this is a tight pit road. There's other tight pit roads you're going to face. I mean, you potentially going to face this again. So,
yeah.
I mean, we can talk right now, but when you're in the heat of the moment, is that really realistic to do?
It's hard. I mean, it's most definitely hard to do that, right? Because you're taking in a lot. When you're obviously trying to gauge the pace of your pit stop versus the cars around you, how fast their pit stop's going to be. You're looking in the camera to see what's coming behind. You're listening to your spotter. You're trying to do a lot of things at once. So it is hard in those scenarios, I think, sometimes to avoid it. I think for us, we were kind of, Miles felt like we probably should have. I mean, we qualified second. Maybe we should have picked further down pit road to give we keep ourselves out of that kind of, bottleneck that happens 3/4 of the way down. But yeah, there's, it's definitely hard to avoid those situations. But, ultimately, man, I mean, it's like I said, you end up, the penalty's way worse when you're facing backwards and going all the way to last, right?
Any additional questions? All right, Josh, thanks for coming in. Good luck this weekend.
Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Ryan, I want to look forward to Darlington. You have a throwback paint scheme, 2006, your dad's Xfinity Series win at Charlotte. Can you describe a little bit about that, and then maybe your memories of that, and then also what it's like for you to represent your dad? Your family's so tight-knit. What it's like to represent your dad at that throwback race?
Yeah, it was neat to get that out there, and I think the car looks pretty good. We couldn't do the avocado green where it's blue. I was really pushing to have the avocado texture from that car, but we couldn't do that, unfortunately. But no, it's neat. I think the font of the numbers brings back a lot of memories for people. With the Braun race team, and there was a lot of good people on that team. You know, Trent Owen was a crew chief of that car, and Dad and Trent know each other for a long time. It's always good to see Trent around the racetrack. And I unfortunately wasn't there. None of my family was there, which was bizarre. I think my sister had like a basketball tournament. We were there instead of in Charlotte, and it figures my dad wins it and we don't get to celebrate with him. But no, I've been lucky. We did his Jasper scheme from I think 02 or 03 one year, which was really neat, and now to do that one, meaning a lot to him. It's cool that we can do that stuff. So pretty special, and looking forward to getting it out there. So
We're going to go to Bob next.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Have you gotten any insight on the engine issue from last week, and if it was similar to what you had earlier this year?
Yeah, you know, we talked through it all week, and RYE, you know, kind of, and Penske and all of us, you know, being in discussions. Hey, what happened? What went wrong? What was the cause of it? And we believe there were separate issues from Phoenix and Homestead. You know, they're working hard on trying to figure out why this issue at Homestead happened. We knew why the one at Phoenix happened. We've kind of figured out that problem, and I think we got our arms around why this one at Miami happened, and hopefully we've taken the correct procedures to kind of make sure it doesn't happen again. It's just unfortunate, you know, 2 out of 3 weeks we have an issue there, but you know, those folks work really hard. I hadn't had an engine failure in a long time, so it's not like it's common with those folks. So just one of those things. That's a bummer, but yeah, I think we have a really good idea of what went wrong, and they're doing all they can to figure out, you know, how can we make that not happen again.
Is there anything that you have to do different inside the car as far as shifting or anything that you do to prevent?
No, it really wasn't a part of that. You know, it's, you know, sometimes it is like you can look at data and be like, well, I really over revved a downshift, but that really wasn't the case. It was a separate issue, and so yeah, we just got to dig into, you know, why this happened. You know, was there a piece that was different or maybe made differently, and they just kind of go back into the order of things. But they did a good job of trying to figure out what it was, and now they're taking big steps to make sure it doesn't happen to any other Fords out there.
Let's go to Lee, Chris, and then Reed.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. You felt the need to support Daniel Hemrick through yesterday and go to victory lane. How tough has his journey been? Because, you know, either you make it, you get the right breaks, and you end up at the Cup Series, or you take a step back and try to figure it out.
Yeah, you know, Daniel's a good friend of mine. He and I grew up racing a lot with each other on the legend car side, and you know, we got to spend a lot of weekends on the NASCAR side together in different series, and I was happy for him to get the win last night. Was happy his family was there, which was really neat to have your family there. So, yeah, I mean, he's been through a lot. You know, he's been through, you know, ups and downs of, you know, getting chances and them just not working out, and you know, him trying to find, okay, what's the best way that I can find a good home that I can be competitive and go win at and contend for championships. And I think he's found a really good place there. And then you just hope that that success continues there, and you try to rebuild back up to where you want to be. So he's had a lot of adversity thrown his way in his career, but he's never given up. Like, he's just always been a gritty guy and always done what he's needed to do to be successful. So it's always refreshing when you see, like, really good guys, you know, who maybe have not gotten great chances, you know, have kind of jumped around series, you know, then go win races and be successful. So I was really happy for him, and it helps that he's a good friend of mine too. So, and I think everyone likes seeing the backflip. Like, we haven't seen a backflip in a while, so it was nice to see that. But yeah, he's fought through a lot, and it's nice to see it all paid off last night.
We'll go to Chris next.
Chris Weaver, WGHP Fox 8, NextStar Media Group. Ryan, looking ahead to Darlington again, how do you mentally prepare for that tough track to make sure you can, you know, get through whatever it throws at you and get to the end of the race to then have hopefully a shot at the win?
Yeah, it is a tough place. I think it's one of the toughest places that we go. More mentally than anything for me, I think. Like, how do you stay in it for that long? You know, I just feel like the mental mush that your brain is in after leaving that race is just, you know, pretty high, because, you know, your concentration levels at 110% the whole time. Some places you can kind of get into these zones of kind of like a relaxation mode, to an extent of just kind of getting in your flow and doing things. And some of that is at Darlington, but I feel like every lap is just a battle, to try to find speed and not find the fence. And, I kind of relate it to Homestead in a way, but Homestead is a lot wider. You have more room for error unless you're pinned on the fence. But Darlington, it just sneaks up at you more, and there's less room to work. So I think that's what makes that place so difficult. And the two ends being vastly different is definitely a challenge there. So I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't thought much about Darlington. I have 100% of my mind on this weekend, and then Monday morning I'm going to switch to Darlington. But yeah, it is a tough place mentally and physically too. It wears you out. But yeah, it's just how do you survive the whole thing, and how do you not put yourself in terrible positions to where it can hurt your night. So I haven't finished a race at Darlington in about a year either, so I hope to do that.
We're going to go to Jordan, Reed, and then Claire in the back. Just so everyone knows, we only have a few more minutes with Ryan, so I'll try to get to as many of you as I can.
Two questions for me. Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. This is race 7 of the schedule. Is now the time when you start realizing who the pretenders and contenders are and who the guys are really going to be here for the duration of the regular season, or are we still kind of sorting that out over the next however number of weeks?
I think you can get a really good feed on it, after Bristol, like going into the Easter break, because you get through a lot of tracks, in that span of time, a lot of different variations of racetracks and things like that. So I'd say give it a few more weeks.
I know the sample size is small on this, but what is the art of racing on a wet track on an oval?
You saying it's going to rain Sunday?
Just asking questions.
Are you on that boat?
I'm not on that boat. Just preparing.
Racing on a wet track on an oval. Yeah, we've had some experience with it the last couple years. It is always a little bit different, right, when you go to these new places that it could potentially rain at that you haven't been to in the rain, like here. And I think this would be the first place that we've gone, if it does rain, of like concrete and asphalt surfaces. So it's like, all right, how does that? Concrete always dries faster than asphalt, so the corners are going to get dry really quick. I think the truck race like last year was that way, and or 2 years ago, and the corners were completely dry, and the straightaways had a little bit of water still on them. So it's like, how does that play into it? So it could get exciting. Do I hope it rains Sunday? No. I like this place enough in the dry that I hope it just is more of a traditional race, but you got to be prepared for everything. But I don't know if it'll change up much. Like, you still want to go for the concrete. I think it would just be, and it'll be a little bit easier to see what concrete patches are dry. Like, sometimes it's hard to tell on asphalt. The asphalt's dark, and it's hard to kind of make that judgment, but the concrete you'll be able to tell right away. So, yeah, it'll be the same for everybody, so you just hope you do it better than everybody else.
We're going to go to Reed, Claire, and then Jermaine, and we have a few final questions in the front.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. You've been consistently good here, whether the Gen 6 car or the Gen 7 car. Other people have had mixed results, either were good in Gen 6, not in Gen 7, or like Larson found the key to this place when they changed the car. Did you have to do anything different with the car change in terms of your approach to the track, the way you drove it? Did it make a difference?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think everyone had to change their style up a little bit when you went from the previous car to this one. Same for everywhere, right? You kind of had to change it up of how you approach each place and how you race it. And I don't know which one I prefer here more. I feel like this place has gotten better with this car with the soft tire. I think we've been able to move around more. I didn't think with the old car, like the second lane wasn't as, there as much as it is with this car. And I think that's just more on Goodyear getting softer and softer and laying rubber down to where you can move around. But I also think the other car was a little bit better in dirty air, to where you didn't have to have that second lane. So it's just kind of trade-offs. But, yeah, I know you're shifting a lot. I mean, you're shifting 4 times a lap around here. So that's definitely changed the way you kind of got into the corner and approached the center speed of it. So, I definitely had to change up. I just got fortunate that what I kind of came here with my mindset, it worked with this car, with how I changed up from the Gen 6 car. So, we've had good runs here. You just continue to try to keep having them.
Go ahead, Claire.
Claire B. Lang Media. I want to ask you about the restarts here. And
kind of the secret to watch for the fans on the restarts? We talk about spinning tires, people pushing from the back, that sort of thing. Can you take us through it?
Yeah. You'll sometimes get the occasional 3-wide dive bomb you have to watch for. And then it's just a matter of, obviously like the bottom is preferred, but am I going to give up a row to choose the bottom? That's like a game time decision, and it's kind of all about how has the top been in this race. You kind of try to notice those things on restarts. I talk with Timmy a lot about, okay, what has kind of been dominant. Has 8th been better than, 7th, or, should I choose 9th instead of 8th? Is that going to play out for me well? So it just kind of depends, taking chances and seeing what lanes have worked. So it's the choose rule here is pretty tough. It's pretty difficult of what you want. All the short tracks are, because you know what you want, but you don't really want to give up much, if you want to get in the preferred lane. So, but yeah, restarts can be pretty crazy, and then the stack ups like halfway in the field are pretty big. You just got to be ready for that. But yeah, and then like I said, you never know who's going to throw it in there 3 wide and mess it all up for you.
Let's go to Jermaine next, and then we're going to come to our right side of the room.
Jermaine Farrell with WFXR Fox. Ryan, it's great to see you as always, sir. You drove for the Wood Brothers. They're celebrating their 75th anniversary. I got to ask you, what is the biggest thing you took for them to help you with your career overall? And just any other fond memories you have with them?
Yeah, I mean, the fondest memory I have is when Pocono with those guys. I think, I don't know, what I took from that whole family, really, it was just, Eddie said something to me when I went to Penske going into 18, and it just kind of lets you know how they operate over there. It's, he told me, he's like, even though you're not driving for us anymore, you're still part of our family. I said, oh, they're just open-armed people. If no matter what history you have with us, if you were working with us for a day, 30 years, you're part of the Wood family. And that really, I think, said a lot. I think that's why they've been around for 75 years, is just because they're great people who have been revolutionary in the sport and have also molded with the times. Don't burn any bridges. Everyone wants to work with those guys. So I have a lot of fond memories with them, and it was so much fun racing for those guys and just seeing how they operate, from Eddie and Len and Leonard, and when Glenn would come to the races, it was pretty neat just to be like in their presence and be racing for a team that has meant so much to the sport and has meant so much to, the sport has meant so much to their family as well. No one's going to be around for 75 years if they don't really care about what they do and they don't love it with a passion. And I think that speaks volumes to the dedication that they have to racing and NASCAR. And, yeah, pretty special people. So it was cool to see them win, a couple weeks ago in Vegas. I was really happy for them and Josh. And, they're going to keep at it, keep going. And that's how they do things.
We're going to go right there. Yep, go ahead.
Ryan, Eric Johnson, WSLS, NBC, Roanoke. I don't know if this place has ever necessarily been intimidating for you, but to consider you to be one of the drivers that's kind of figured this place out, or at least in my mind, what's it like coming back to a track like Martinsville, knowing you've had success and you kind of know where and how to qualify now?
Well, it's always nice to come back to places where you've ran well. Gives you a little bit more of a sense of confidence and like, okay, I kind of know what I need to be fairly decent here or contend for, top 5 or the win. It wasn't always that way. I mean, I was terrible here my first 2-3 years at it, and we worked really hard at figuring it out, and it just kind of clicked one day. And then it's funny how those things stick with you when you're like, oh, okay, this is the mindset I have to have coming into here, and it's just kind of stuck. So I do like coming here for multiple reasons. On-track success is one thing. The other one is growing up not too far from here, so does mean a lot. But yeah, it's always nice when you come to places you've been good at, and you just hope to keep that up. Like I don't expect to run good here. You never know how years are going to change, or if you try something that's not going to work. That stuff happens all the times. But it's just a matter of your mindset going in. It makes you feel a little bit more at ease, but you're never overconfident, like, oh, I'm for sure going to run towards the front of this thing, just because you can't really have that because you never know what's going to happen.
We're going to wrap with our final question.
David Meadows, Star News, Martinsville, Virginia. Ryan, what's one of the things that you love about Martinsville Speedway that makes it unique from any other track that's on the circuit?
I think from the fan aspect side of it, I came here a lot as a kid and watching, and it's a fun atmosphere. I loved it so much as a kid because you could see everything. You can see, no matter really where you sit in the stands, you can see at least 3/4 of the racetrack. So that was always unique to me and fun, that there was racing going on anywhere you looked. There was never like a break in action. There was battles going on everywhere. So as a kid in the stands, you just look around the racetrack. If the leader was 2 seconds ahead, well, you're going to have a battle for second or fifth or 10th or 20th. There's always going to be something going on. That just kind of fascinated me. So it gave you a little bit different snippets of the race that you could watch in the stands. So, and I think that's what makes it special for the fans to come out and watch. At least that's what I took away from it as a kid. And then, the racing side is what it is. I love the racetrack. It puts on good shows, and there's no other place like it on our circuit. There's a lot of short tracks around the country like it, in its own way, shaped like it, but not necessarily races like it. But I think it just puts on a great race for fans, and that's why everyone here is very dedicated to Martinsville Speedway, and that's why I think you hear most of the drivers say that they love it too, just because it not only the history behind it, but the on-track shows that it puts on too. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much for spending time with us, and good luck this weekend. Driver of the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet. We're going to open it up with Jordan.
What's up? Hey, Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Hendrick Motorsports has won 3 straight spring races here. Fall has been a different story for the organization. It seems like Penske has kind of got it covered at that time. Is there a difference between the spring and fall races here that is the difference between you guys winning and losing?
Yeah, I think typically there's been a new tire going into the fall, so I don't feel like we've had a repeat tire here at Martinsville in the next gen era. That's really allowed us to hone in on our setup. So yeah, that's been I feel like part of the equation, and then honestly just the speed equation. I feel like we've been a step off in the fall. It seems like in the spring everyone's fairly even in the top 5. Like the Gibbs cars can be pretty strong, and Penske is kind of not as strong in the spring, it seems like, and then they obviously get a lot better in the fall. So I don't know, based on how things are going lately, I feel like Penske is going to be really good this weekend, and it'll probably be a battle between all the top organizations. So no tire change. So I think you'll see the normal players that you saw in the fall probably.
We're going to go to Chris next.
Chris Weaver, WGHP Fox 8 High Point, Next Star Media Group. Looking ahead to Darlington, how do you get yourself in the middle space to race that track, not be too aggressive, and make sure you get to the end when it really counts?
Yeah, I think that over-aggression's kind of overblown at Darlington, especially with this car. You can be pretty aggressive, and it's just, I don't know. I think you've got to be aggressive at Darlington now to get clean air and to stay up towards the front. So, yeah, you got to be good on the long run. So however you manage that, whether that's setup or driver inputs, you just have to be good on the long run. But, yeah, you can't afford to just kind of ride around in this car at Darlington anymore. It's going to be a lot like Homestead, where you've got to, run the fence and be good at all the different lanes. Mm-hmm.
We're going to go to Jordan and then David.
At what point in the season do you kind of start assessing who's legitimate contender for the regular season championship and who's kind of, we're not really sure yet? Is it too early, or are we still kind of waiting for this stretch?
Yeah, I'd say get to July probably and kind of figure out who's close in points. I think the last few years we've kind of seen that, guys within 40 points can kind of make a charge and win the regular season. So honestly for us, it's just you've got to put a lot of stage wins together. You've got to put a lot of race wins together. So, yeah, it's whoever's going to break out and win multiple races. Obviously, Bell's already done that, but they've been kind of up and down, inconsistent. So, yeah, I think it's whoever gets a lot of stage points, stage wins, and then, race wins kind of starts racking them up.
Go ahead, David.
David Meadows, Star News, Martinsville, Virginia. How hard is it for you to find patience here at Martinsville to put your car into victory lane?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same answer I gave about Darlington. Like, it's you've got to be patient mentally, but physically on the track, I think it's a little bit different. So, yeah, I think just taking care of the components of the car, making sure that you don't get any major damage. These cars are really tough, though, so you just got to watch for stack ups and things like that. But when it comes to passing, you've got to really kind of wear the guy in front of you down. So there's no other way to do that than just be aggressive.
We're going to go to Dustin, Steven, Barry, and then Jermaine.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Narrow pit road last week, narrow pit road this week, tight pit road at Darlington. It seems like there have been some more incidences on pit road. Maybe you see it differently, but I'm just curious what you're seeing on pit road and the challenges, especially at these places where it's a narrow pit road and trying to avoid contact and just trying to keep your car clean.
Well, so I think a couple things are happening. I think pit road is more competitive than it's ever been. So I feel like the rolling time is more of the equation than the pit stop, by percentage and amount of time. So everyone's getting super aggressive with rolling time, clearing out to a lane. If you can get to the outside lane, that's a huge key because you've got guys merging coming off. But yeah, we've just been to some tight pit roads, I would say, recently, and the pit stops are all super close in timing. Like an 8.5 is top of the board, best pit stop you can have, and then a 9.5 is like a middle of the road to a slow stop. So I think you're just seeing a lot of aggression because the pit stops are so fast and everyone is getting kind of cleared into, like, you can have a decent or a slow stop and you might lose 3-4 spots because everyone's in a really close pile. So I think that's part of it.
Steven next.
Steven Stump, frontstretch.com. William, you have a half race lead in the points already. You've been fast every race. How difficult is it to keep that hot hand going, especially in this next-gen car, and also considering that nearly 2/3 of your wins have come in the first 8 races of a season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been traditionally strong at the beginning and the end of the season. It seems like we kind of have a lull in the middle. Obviously, we're trying not to do that this year, so I feel like this is a good start. We've been really consistent. Even if you looked at the years that we've won races traditionally in the spring, we've been very inconsistent. This year, we've been super consistent, just looking for a little bit more pace in the end of the race. So I think for us, we just have to continue to focus on our notebook throughout the weekend, what we can do to perfect the end of the race. We've had 3 weeks in a row that we haven't restarted at the front at the beginning of stage 3. We've had some sort of issue, whether it's speeding, cautions, strategy thing didn't work out. So we have not had smooth races, but we've been able to overcome. And I think that's where I see our team is our maturity is being able to overcome setbacks. So if we can do that all year, we're going to probably be up there in the points the entire time and not have sort of those down stretches that we've had in the past. So just got to, like I said, we got to, hopefully this weekend we can just perfect start to finish of the weekend. And typically our guys do a really good job starting the weekend with a close balance, and we just got to keep that going throughout the weekend.
We're going to go to Barry and then up front to Jermaine.
Yes, Barry Richmond, Piedmont Broadcast and WAKG. In the last 13 races, Hendrick Motorsports has won 5, leading all the other major teams with victories. But historically, Hendrick as an organization just seems to do well here. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, it's kind of the age-old question. I think for us, it's just good preparation, good engines, good brakes, good teamwork. I think all those things, you can't win here if you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and that's why this place is so tough. And you have to have good pit stops, good car, good execution. So it just takes everything, and I think Hendrick has, I feel like, the best teams out there to do that. So I think we unload with good cars that are in the ballpark, and we're just able to work from there to have a really successful weekend. So even the years we've been off, we've been able to execute our way to wins. Like, I think Kyle won here with a 2-tire call, and a couple other times we've been able to kind of track position our way forward. So, yeah, I think it just takes the whole team.
Jermaine.
Jermaine Farrell, WFXR, Fox CW. Always a pleasure to talk to you, William. I got to ask you, it's sort of a 2-part question. Number one, you've had the success here with the wins. Is there one win that you like stronger than the other? And also, where do you have your grandfather clocks?
Yeah, all the wins here are really special. Been fortunate enough to win 3 clocks, and I feel like the biggest thing is, everyone, like I said, is special, I think, for different reasons. The one in 22 is special for my family, and then the one last year was special for the Hendrick family. So just feel like every time you win here, it's just a really, really big deal. The fans are right there in front of you. It's really up close, and I feel like there's just a lot of energy and excitement around the wins here. So my clocks are in my house, and it's cool to look at those every now and then and kind of remember what those moments were like. But hopefully win some more.
Any final questions? We have time for 2. We'll go to Bob and then John Newby.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Do you come in here at all remembering the longest 28 minutes of your life, if they were the longest 28 minutes of your life?
Yeah, they were. It's funny you say that because I hadn't thought about it much at all, and then I went out for the truck race, and my pit stall was right around pit stall 6, and it triggered a memory, a scar tissue. So, last fall was wild for sure. I feel like there's parts of that race you just block out and just, I don't know. It's just hopefully we can make some better memories here this year, for sure.
Go ahead, John.
John Newby, Savage Ventures. So you mentioned the changing tires over the years. This will be the 3rd race, counting Bowman Gray, that you've run the specific tire setup. And I was curious, with the different, temperature changes, all that, do you kind of have a handle on what to expect tomorrow?
I hope so. I mean, I think we ran this tire at Bowman Gray. We had some issues there, but I hope so. We can hopefully dial in, some of the things that we need to have with this tire. But last fall was good on this tire. A lot of wear, and obviously like the clumping and the marbling of the tire. So just interested to see how that changes the groove. And the track's been laying a lot of rubber this weekend. I think the kind of core temperature of the concrete is pretty warm this weekend. So it's not getting super cold overnight. So I feel like that's helping lay rubber. So I think you're going to see, like I said, I think you're going to see a really similar race to the fall. And hopefully we've just made those improvements where we can be right there.
All right, William. Well, thank you for
Thanks,
joining
guys.
us. Good luck this weekend.
When I figure it out, I'll tell you. I think a lot of some of the challenge right now is that we don't have a rain tire that has stagger. So it's not really a rain tire that's for oval racing, if you ask my opinion. So I feel like we've learned a lot more about how to offset, the balance issues that you have from putting the rain tires on it than anything else. So I think that's been a larger point in all this, and then just understanding, when we're going to do it and when we're not going to.
Thank you. Do you remember getting your first Darlington stripe, and what was your reaction?
Well, I guess to preface, I haven't ever been to Darlington and not hit the wall. So that's, I guess, not one time is more memorable than the other, I guess.
Okay. I mean, for us in the car, it's not, but I don't want to hit somebody, right? Like, I don't want that on my conscience either, right? And, when you look at Miami, it's happened a lot there. And when if they're renovating and doing all this stuff, then if they can move the pit wall a little bit, I think, and like maybe save someone's life, pretty cool, right? That would be worth a few dollars, if they can do that somehow. It's hard, right? I mean, here I am saying we should do something about it, and well, then I should do something about it. But what am I supposed to do? I don't own the racetrack. I'm just sitting here complaining, but I just don't want to see someone get hurt. That's the bottom line. I just don't want to see that. Is the easiest thing to make the pit road speed a little slower? I mean, maybe that's one thing you can do, is just make pit road speed slower at the tight pit roads. It's not like that's a real fast one.
You said, look, when you spawned the other day, that you guys weren't going that speed. So
right. But I mean, if you're going faster, your likelihood of sliding further or being out of control for a longer period of time, right? Your likelihood is up. So you can minimize that a little bit. But I mean, there's always going to be inherited risks when you're playing in traffic, right? Like that's what they're doing. So there's just obviously risk there. It's one thing if you see it coming at you. The part that makes me nervous is when, the backs are to the car and you don't see it coming, you can't get out of the way, you can't get up and over the car, right? That's what you have to do. So it's, I brought it up because I just don't want to see it. I don't ever want to see someone get hurt or on something like that. And if there's a way we can prevent it, if we're already going to be doing things, if we can just have that in the thoughts of the people designing the racetracks, then that's got to be good. It's worth saying something.
For me, it's tough just to get into a rhythm of slowing down and reaccelerating, doing it lap after lap, and kind of trying to keep up with the changing conditions in the tires and track surface. But yeah, and then you're doing it like right on top of the guy in front of you and guys pressuring you, so it's just it's hard. But yeah, I mean, other tracks come a little easier, but this one's a tough one.
Looking ahead to
yeah, I think that's hard for me to tell you. I think things are going really well for us at the moment. Yep.
At Homestead, you had your best average running condition. I think it was about 3.8 since Kansas in 2022. Even if it wasn't a win, how important just was having that run and being able to be that close to the front of the field pretty much the entire day?
Yeah, I think I think we were good for sure. Probably not as good as we wanted to be. I think the last run was obviously our best run of the day, and kept ourselves in contention to have a shot at it. So that was great. But yeah, I mean, I think for us, we need to keep improving. We unloaded, and honestly, we were pretty bad on Saturday. So proud of the guys for, making really good changes for Sunday, and kind of taking a car that was only good on a short run on Saturday and turning it into a decent long run car.
Alex, you guys are top 3 in the points right now, Hendrick drivers. How important is it to get those points up early in the year, however you can do it?
I think it's important the whole season, right? Like you see that regular season point steal come down to some really close stuff, and playoff cuts come down to close stuff. So just got to get points whenever you can.
And for Hendrick, how important is your role been? And obviously, you're going out for a win every week. Last year, you got like this year, have 5 top 5 finishes this early in the year. How much of an asset is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good spot. Certainly want more. Hated giving one away like that last week, but just got to keep at it.
So last week, Jeff said that Blake's tenure, it's all been kind of like rebuilding the team from scratch. I was curious, from your perspective, how's that process been, just kind of building step by step by step?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's there's been a lot of parts and pieces that we've just been trying to improve on the 48 team, and feel like we're in a good place. So we're all constantly growing together. The sport is so up and down, and things change so quickly. You can't ever be idle and leave things the same. So yeah, just continuing to plug away at it and try to improve the whole team.
how do you get your head in the mind space to go to Darlington and make it to the end and avoid mid-race shenanigans that sometimes happen there that would end your day?
Yeah, I mean, certainly focus on Martinsville right now, but yeah, when you go there, you just got to be smart about things, and race the racetrack's the biggest thing.
We've been fast most of the time. You know, our ceiling is where it needs to be on speed and capability of our Toyota Camrys. I feel like our floor is actually still in a pretty good place. You know, I felt like we're about as far off as we've been this year at Homestead, and we were still running the top 10. So I think we're right where we need to be to stay in the conversation for the regular season championship. And hopefully, again, with the ceiling as high as it seems like it is, just keep the floor where it is. I think we should be able to have opportunities to win races this year.
Thank you. It wasn't your fault that you know.
Well, I was driving, so it was my fault. But
Yeah, right. It was your fault.
you know, I don't know that there's a fix. You know, at the end of the day, I think they make the rules, and you know, it's our job to abide by them and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And you know, I was, I guess, in a gray area that I thought was okay, because I gave, you know, what advantage was there back, and I made sure I did that. I was very aware of, you know, not taking advantage of that situation.
Yeah.
And was just trying to avoid damage, you know, and it's happened a lot this year in particular, where, you know, pit road really stacks up, and I've hit some people really hard. I think Phoenix was an example. I hit somebody so hard, I'm like, man, y'all gonna have to look at the nose. Like, I'm really concerned that I hurt it, and all I was trying to do was just not leave a huge gap and give up time, you know, on pit road. And So as the weeks have gone on, I'm like, how can I mitigate not damaging my car, early in the race to, make sure I'm not doing our team a disservice. And in doing that, I ended up, busting a rule that was there, and unfortunately, it, ended up hurting us more than it helped us.
Chase, when you talk about the crew members putting so much trust and faith in y'all, have you and your dad ever talked about the incident at Riverside when Michael Walter put the crew, and then the incident in Atlanta when Ricky Rudd, we lost Mike Rich?
Yeah, I'm very aware of those incidents. I can't say that we have discussed them at great length or, in great detail, but I'm certainly aware of them. That they were terrible situations, right? And there's been a lot of rules put in place since then to try and mitigate the risk. I'm not saying that, it's totally better than it was back then, 100,000%. But they're still at great risk. I mean, these are heavy cars. I know it doesn't look like we're going very fast, but heck, some of these places we're doing 50, 60 miles an hour on pit road, which is what you're doing going down the highway, right? Like, it looks slow visually because of what you see on track, but it's still pretty quick. And there's just a lot going on, from how fast the pit stops have gotten, the strategy calls that seem like are getting more and more aggressive with putting on 2 tires, no tires. Some of these pit roads being really narrow and everyone being so close on track, it puts even more emphasis on needing to be perfect on pit road. So you just can't afford to give up time. Used to, you could always you could play so much to the conservative side of things in all those areas. And you know what, it's going to come out in the wash. If we're better, we'll get them on the next long run, kind of mindset. But those days are gone.
Is it a
and
product
you just
of,
can't give up the time.
Is it a product of the cars being so close and you're making up more spots on pit road than you are on the racetrack?
You can, don't get me wrong, like, there are some guys that can still, move forward, but it definitely is I do think the cars being closer has put more emphasis on time on pit road. It's put more emphasis on all the little details, right? Like how your Saturday goes, how your pit selection is. You are either setting yourself up right there from the get-go you're setting yourself up, or your pit crew up, for success or failure here in about an hour. And truthfully, I should have qualified better last week is kind of how I look at it, because then you're not put in a position where you're having, to come out around someone, right? Those are all the reasons that you want to have a good qualifying effort on Saturday. So, it's I think it's a little bit of everything, but it's definitely a dangerous place on a weekly basis, and I think everyone overall does a really pretty good job. And that situation last week, honestly, my priority was not hitting those guys, and not an excuse. I don't want to run anybody in the fence coming out of the pit box. Certainly not Ryan, but it was unfortunate, but glad, like I said before, glad he kind of bailed when he did.
And Chase, as a driver, how important is it to be a good teammate, especially you get out, cars are as close together as they are now, and now Hendrick obviously right now, all 4 of you guys in the top 6 in the standings, just how important is it to work with each other, try and get the result you guys all want?
I think it's just, the behind-the-scenes efforts that go on, and us making sure that, you're just open and transparent on car balances and car builds and things like that, right? And then you can take all that information and kind of tweak and adjust and do what fits each individual driver. But it's it's a balance like everything else. It's all a balance that we try to navigate each week, and I think our group does a pretty good job of it.
And how's it, guys?
When we go to Darlington next week, how do you get yourself in the mental headspace to make sure you're there at the end of the race and avoid any mid-race shenanigans that happen?
Right now I'm honestly just I'm here. I'm here, and just trying to be present here in Martinsville. And don't get me wrong, I put a lot of effort already into Darlington for next week because it's been such a struggle for us. But I'm all in on this weekend, and I'll put more effort in next week to try to improve our efforts.
But I've always said that I enjoy it, and more importantly is the fact that if Matt and Chris, keep believing that I'm bringing something to the program, I'll keep doing it. And it's strange because it's a, I don't want to say it's a love-hate, but it's almost a necessary evil. It's all I've ever done my whole life. And when it's great, I love the feeling that I get, that I feel like I'm bringing something to the race team. And when I'm struggling, I can be on the counter side of that, and I can really bury myself in the ground. So, but it's the way I've always been. I'm never going to change it. And I think it's more than anything is just if I feel like I'm bringing something, but more importantly, if they feel like I'm bringing something, I'm going to keep doing it.
You know Justin Marks fairly well, right?
Yeah.
So what have you? Let me ask you, how have you seen him evolve as a team owner? What he has brought to the team ownership ranks?
Yeah, I mean, Justin's been around racing. I wouldn't say his whole life, but he's been around it for a long time that I've known him, and I think it's unique because he's been on the racing side of it, the race car driver side of it, and now he's a team owner in a lot of different aspects, right? So, I think that involvement of knowing the business side of it to a certain extent, but also knowing what it's like to feel the race car driving side of it, it helps the drivers because it's like, this is one of the best jobs in the world, right? But when it's going bad, like, you feel like it's the worst thing in the world, even though it's not. And I think Justin has experienced both sides of that, so he can help his drivers when they're feeling kind of more on the downside.
Are you surprised that he's had the success that he's had as a team owner, where he's consistently contending, winning races?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. Like,
did you ever
in a way, not really. They got themselves in a good spot with Chevy. I think he also did a really good job of when he bought Ganassi. He left the really good people there, and I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know how many people stayed and how many, but the higher ups, he knew the good people, and he didn't have to start from scratch with that, and he was able to kind of build around that. So no, I guess it really doesn't surprise me.
Okay, thanks, man.
Put the sunglasses inside.
Hey, I'm old, man. My eyes are very sensitive.
When we go to Darlington next week, how do you put yourself in the headspace to race the lady in black and not get caught up in any early mid-race shenanigans that ultimately take a lot of guys out?
Well, I think it's for me, it's that Darlington itself is like, I know it's generic to say it because it's what people say, but I'm literally just racing the racetrack. Like, it's and I've done a bad job there at times if you get caught up if somebody's quicker and you start trying to drive harder. Like, that place is, you don't live very long there by trying to drive the racetrack harder. So I think it's more mentally just trying to get in the rhythm of just racing the racetrack, whatever speed I got, just working on me. And I feel like on the Xfinity side of it, and even the last Cup race that I did there, when I've done that, I've done well. So I just got to keep that kind of that same headspace.